Hey ladies, this lesson should not be new to you. I'm pretty sure you did it with Miss Lytle last year, but today we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. So 2 lessons ago we solved quadratic equations by graphing. Remember, when you solve it by graphing, it's where the equation crosses the x-axis, where the graph crosses the x-axis right here. So the solutions to this problem were when x is -3 and x is +3. And then I also had you solve each equation by finding the square root. So if you take the square root of each side, you would have gotten x equals ±9. On this problem here, you would get w squared equals -28. And when you take the square root of each side, remember, square root of a negative number is imaginary, so there's no real number solution. Okay. All right. So today you can solve some quadratic equations by using the zero product property. All right, I had to step away. One of the babies woke up crying already. So anyway, all right. So you can solve some quadratic equations using the zero product property. So all this is whenever you factor the equation and then you set each binomial equal to 0 and solve for it. So for example here, this one's already factored for us. So whenever you set it equal to 0 and solve for it, all you have to do is you set 4t plus 1 equal to 0, remember, or t minus 2 equal to 0. Okay, when you solve for this, you get 4t equals -1, and then divide both sides by 4, and you get t equals -1/4. Okay, when you solve for the other one, all you do is you add 2 to each side, so you have t equals 2. And the way to check yourself for these is to plug -1/4 or 2 into the equation and make sure that it does in fact equal 0. When you plug 1/4 into here, -1/4 in here, you get -1. -1 plus 1 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. And if you plug 2 into this binomial, you get 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. And 0 times anything else is going to be equal to 0. So it does work out. Okay. So moving forward, solve each equation. The answer here, when you set each of them equal to 0, you get x equals -1 or x equals 5. Okay? Sorry, it's really hard to write on this. When you set these equal to 0, you have 2x plus 3 equals 0. Or x minus 4 equals 0. And x minus 4 is simple. It's when you usually add 4 to each side, so you have, or x equals 4. Go ahead and solve for that one. Here, to get x by itself, you'll have 2x equals -3. Alright, there you go. And divide both sides by 2, so you get x equals -3/2. Okay, so these are your 2 solutions. Okay, on this one, when you solve for it, I want you to try to solve for it on your own. When you do, you'll get that n is equal to +2/7, or n is equal to +4/5. The next problems, it says you can also use the zero product property to solve equations of the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c if it could be factored. So the first thing you do and I ask you to solve each equation for these is you need to factor it first. Okay, so we learned about this last unit. To factor, you have to find the two numbers and multiply to give you 15, but add to give you 8. So think to yourselves, what two numbers are those? It's a terrible parentheses. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so hopefully you thought about it, and you got x plus 3 and x plus 5. Okay, equals 0. So now you set each binomial equal to 0, and you solve, so you have x equals 3, negative 3, and then also you can separate with a comma, negative 5. Okay, but here, let's keep the same practice. So you have x equals negative 3 or negative 5. Okay, here when you factor these, what two numbers multiply to give you negative 14 and add to give you negative 5? Thought about it? Okay, negative 7 and positive 2. So our two solutions for this one would be that m equals, m equals 7 or negative 2. Okay, keep going with these. Okay, so what two numbers multiply to give me negative 20 and add to give me positive 1? Thought about it? Right, negative 4 and positive 5. Okay, so whenever you solve it, you get p equals 4 or negative 5. Alright, so this one here is like we did last unit, where you can multiply the two terms and then find out which two terms add to give you the middle one. So 2 times 18 is what? 36, right? So what two numbers multiply to give me 36 but add to give me negative 15? I'm giving you time to think about it, sorry. Right. Okay, so 12 and 3 multiply to give me 36 and add to give me negative 15 when they're both negative. Okay, so remember you have 2a squared. This is so hard to write on this. So you have 2a squared minus 12a minus 3a plus 18 equals 0. Okay, and so remember we have to group them. Oops, sorry. Started that parenthesis really way too early. And then you factor out the common term. So here my GCF is 2a, and I'm left with a minus 6. Okay, and then here my GCF, remember I want to have the same thing, so I'm going to factor out a negative 3, which will make me have a positive 3 right here, right? Because there's already a minus sign. So if I factor out negative 3, that'll give me a minus 6. Sorry guys, I forgot that whenever you have a minus sign, you're supposed to keep it in parentheses when you group and act like there's a plus sign here. So anyway, when you factor out the negative 3, now you have negative 3 out, and then you have a minus 6 in the parentheses. Okay, equals 0. So now our two factors are 2a minus 3, and then times a minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so here you have a equals 3 halves, and here you have a equals positive 6. Okay, so remember it's always or. Alright, and those are your two solutions. Okay, number 9, it says before solving a quadratic equation, you may need to add or subtract terms from each side in order to write the equation in standard form. You would then factor the quadratic equation. So basically, you cannot factor a quadratic equation and solve until this is equal to 0. So for this one, you have 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to need you to factor this one and then solve for it. I'll put the answer on haiku later. This one here, same thing. You need to bring everything to the same side of the equation. So you have x squared plus 14x plus 49 equals 0. Okay, so I want you to do these two for your homework and to practice, and I will put the answer in haiku. You will not learn these until you practice them. Okay, and then for this last one here, it says you're constructing a frame for the rectangular photo shown. You want the frame to be the same width all the way around, and the total area of the frame and photo to be 315 inches squared. What should the outer dimensions of the frame be? Okay, so what we want to figure out is what the outer dimension of the frame is. Okay, and the problem gave us the measure of the picture on the inside of the frame. So we know that the frame is the same width all the way around, just like any normal frame, and the picture inside is 17 inches by 11 inches. So how do you think we're going to solve this problem? Okay, so remember, if we want the total area of this photo plus the frame to be 315 square inches, remember area is equal to length times width. And the problem tells you that you want the area to be 315. What is the length of my frame? Okay, well we know the picture is 17 inches long, so we know the length is 17, or at least 17, right? But you have to add on the measure of the frame on each side. And so since the frame here is x and this is x, we really have x plus 17 plus x, which is 17 plus 2x, right? Okay, and then same goes for the width. Okay, so the width we know is 11 inches, right? But we also have this x down here and this up here, so that's really going to be 11, sorry guys, 11 plus another 2x to account for the frame. Okay, so whenever you solve the problem, when you create your quadratic equation, you're going to have the area is 315, the length is 17 plus 2x times the width is 11 plus 2x. Does everybody understand how we got that? Okay, moving forward, now you just FOIL this out and set it equal to 0. So when you FOIL this out, you end up getting 4x squared plus 56x plus 187 equals 315, and you have to make sure that the equation is equal to 0 before you begin to solve it. Okay, when you solve it, you end up getting that x equals negative 16 or x equals 2, and we know that a measure cannot be negative, so the only possible answer for this one would be 2. Okay, be sure to complete your homework tonight on haiku, and I will make sure I post the answers to those problems.